All right. Welcome back to Metal Messiah Radio. You're listening to Toby and Lori on the Powerslaves show, and we are happy to have our special guest with us today, Carlos Alvarez. I'm hoping I'm pronouncing that correct, with Power Theory. How are you doing, Carlos?
I'm doing fantastic, and you pronounced it perfect.
Awesome. So, yeah, your new album, Force of Will, just released out on Pure Steel Records. Tell us a little bit about Power Theory and your joining of the band.
Okay, well, basically Power Theory was started back sometime around 2006 by the main guy, Bob Ballinger, and went through a bunch of different lineups and stuff because this particular type of music is not exactly really popular in like the Philadelphia area. He's kind of he wanted to put together something that emulated a lot of the stuff that he grew up loving and playing, like old Accept, Saxon, Maiden, all those kind of stuff, the classic metal bands. And it's just been a long journey for him through a bunch of different members and lineup changes and all sorts of stuff until it kind of really seemed to gel a few years ago. And that was for the last album, Driven by Fear, where they had a pretty stable lineup and like a good direction kind of mapped out. And that's when I first got involved with them. I wasn't in the band, but I got asked by Bob to help him produce that album and record it and mix it. And ever since then, I've kind of been, there was like jokes saying I'm like the unofficial sixth member. So that's what that was the history with the band. And then sometime around almost 3 years ago to the day almost, their guitarist that they had filling in, Nick from the band Wretch, he was too busy with his various projects and he had to bail. And Bob asked me, he's like, "Look, man, I got a couple of gigs booked already for like 2 months from now or something. Could you do me a favor and just play those 2 gigs?" Because I was always real famous for saying to him, like, that's why I don't play in a band, because I hate playing in bands. It's just I'm not really a big enthusiast of playing live and stuff. I'm more of a studio guy. I'm more of like I like writing. But he's like, dude, it's just two gigs. Can you help me out? And Bob's my boy, so I was like, absolutely. And that was 3 years ago. So
the rest is kind of history. Now you're the permanent member.
Yeah, I guess I'm in the band. I haven't gotten the call yet, but I guess I'm in the band.
Well, so when you said that this type of music isn't real popular in Philadelphia or in that area, what kind of music is popular?
Look, there's a buddy of mine. We were joking not too long ago about it, like saying, there actually is a Philadelphia sound. And essentially, it's if you can take the really easy riffs from Slayer and the real boring parts of Pantera and kind of mush them together. That's a big indication of where a lot of the Philadelphia music scene kind of lives.
Okay, so that's where their metal scene sounds like. It's not power metal. It's not traditional heavy metal. It's more.
Yeah, it's a lot of screaming. It's a lot of angry guys. It's a lot of that kind of stuff. And don't get me wrong. There's actually over the last few years, there's really been kind of an uptick in different, different styles of metal bands coming around from the way and stuff.
Sure.
Like we got like a pretty good epic doom metal band from around here. There's a couple other power metal bands that have sort of been creeping up and stuff. So it does seem like it's kind of getting a little more popular to not be that that kind of poor man's Pantera sort of thing. But as far as like the traditional and the traditional metal and almost like the more pure kind of power metal, like almost European style power metal, it's vacant around here. There isn't a lot of it.
Sure. Wow. I was just curious what you meant by that, because it's interesting. Every large city or metropolitan area has its own scene.
True.
And they're all different, and it just depends on where you come from and where you gravitate towards. So, but are you local to that area? Did you grow up there? Are you from that area?
Yeah. I'm from this area basically.
Okay.
Like none of us is actually in the city
Right.
anymore. We're all a little older and stuff, so
Yeah, you're
we
in the
gotta get
suburb. You're in the suburbs of that area, but that's your metropolitan
exactly. Yeah.
area.
But I grew up pretty much within 20 miles of this, various locations within a 20-mile radius of this area. And same thing with, Bob. The only one who's not from this area is Alan, the bass player. He's from up in New York State, a little
Right.
bit above New York City, like Newburgh, New York, or something like that. So
Right.
he's the odd man out.
But yeah, well, New York's got a wide variety of different music scenes to pick from, so he could have had his pick of the litter from any scene, really.
Very true. Very
Right.
true. And he's been in some pretty dynamite bands too over his career. So
Right.
it's pretty cool that he's stuck it out this long, and he throws down 120,000% of himself into it. So
What are
he's a good guy.
so what would you say, kind of circling back around your personal influences as a guitarist? So let's kind of segue back toward that.
Okay. So like who influenced me, that
Sure.
kind of thing?
Yeah, your influences.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, wow. Let me have a seat. No. Okay. So I can probably sum that up in a few different players for a few different reasons. First and foremost, probably the biggest influence on me on guitar would be a guy named Kai Hansen from Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We love the Kai.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. Kai is the man. And when I was 13 years old, and I bought Keeper to Seven Keys Part 1, and I heard that, and I was like, okay, yeah, I wanna be able to do that. So
I want to do that. So you're a big Gamma Ray, Halloween, everything Kai Hansen fan.
yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Well, I can relate to that then.
So there's that, and then but I've got a really I've got a pretty varied background as far as like different styles of bands I've played, different styles of music I've played. I've done everything from like the death metal stuff to I was even flirting with some black metal for a while because I'm a huge fan of all that stuff. Going back to the old original bands and stuff. So but and also obviously a lot of the classic thrash. From the 80s and late 80s and stuff. So there's no way that I could talk about influences and not mention, Papa Het from Metallica.
Right.
That man is the down-picking juggernaut, And, and then another one, which a guy I was very fortunate to actually get to meet one night and hang out, and I didn't even realize that I was going to be playing a gig opening up for his new band. It worked out really, really, really cool that night. Is a guy named Greg Fulton, and he had a band that was really popular for a while called Snow White, and then they turned into Cyclone Temple.
I'm not even familiar with that. I've never heard of it.
Oh my God! It's just the thing with him is, first of all, that dude will take anybody to school on guitar, hands down. He is it's like effortless, man. The guy was like doing these like complex thrash rhythms, and it just looked like he was thinking about cartoons or something, It was just effortless.
I'm writing that down.
And he's got one of the things with his playing that really, I noticed it right away, and it was so different to me, was he would actually, even when he'd be playing the fastest stuff, like real intricate thrashy rhythms, he would do like vibrato on power chords, and I hadn't heard anybody else do that before. It was almost like bluesy in a way, like despite how fast he'd be playing. So I actually I worked that into my very small toolkit, and ever since then, that's just part of my playing style. Is I do a lot of chord vibrato whenever I'm doing anything. So I attribute that to him.
Well, they say that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. So he's probably like, dude, learn that from me. That must mean I'm a pretty big deal.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I would say those three in particular are probably a good 90-something%. The makeup of my influences. I mean, there's other people over the years, and whatever. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Prince, and there's I try to sneak in little tributes to him. I even have one on the album. I got to do a little tribute to Prince, you know, a little guitar lick that some people may pick up on, they may not. I'm not sure, but it's like a little Easter egg I kind of left for people that might also be fans.
Huh. I'll have to go dig for it because I'm a fan.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm not going to tell you where it's at.
Don't tell me. I'll go dig for it, and then if I find it, I'll let you know. That's my next hunt then.
Now,
there you go.
I got a question.
It's a pretty obvious one once you hear it. You know, it might go past you a couple times, and then you hear it and you go, really? So that's about it as far as like influences for me. I mean, there's, you know, that's strictly on guitar. But I've also I take a lot of influence from various styles of, you know, music and stuff. I'm big on classical music. I'm big on a lot of different styles of ethnic music from like all corners of the world.
Oh,
whether
sure.
it's, you know, Middle Eastern music or Scandinavian folk music or, you know, Asian, you know, Japanese music, whatever. I listen to a lot of that stuff just as background music or whatever, and it finds its way into my writing and into my playing style.
Sure.
So, you know, I
I
try to be well versed.
What made you want to be a guitarist?
Well, like I said, I mean, I bought that Halloween album, and I was like, well,
I want to do that.
You know, and I figured, all right, this is, you know, I'm not exactly the best-looking guy in the world. I'm not exactly a top-shelf specimen, 6'2" or something like that. I'm like, so I'm going to learn how to play guitar because then that's the only way girls are going to want to touch me.
That is so funny. Well, because we do ask people that, and they're always like, well, why do you want to be a drummer, or why do you want to be a bassist? And they're always like, well, the bassist never gets the girls. You know how they're always picking on somebody in the band, you know, and they're always like, well, the guitarist always gets the girls, or the vocalist always gets the girls. We're always like, well, why would you want to be the bassist? You know, we're always trying to make them feel better about themselves.
Good answer to that. If somebody ever says that, because I'm also a bass player,
right?
So if somebody asked me that, I would be like, why do I want to be a bass player? Because I want a steady paycheck.
Yeah, right?
The bass players are the ones getting all the jobs.
That's
not
the truth.
Guitarists.
That is absolutely the truth. Well, we talked to a bass player at a show the other night, too, and we were talking about that. We're like, the rhythm section makes the band. And he's like, you are so right. You are so right, you know? But, I mean, it takes a lot of talent to play guitar. I mean, to do, whether it's rhythm or lead, but that's a lot of practice.
It takes a lot of talent to do just about anything, I think. You know, if you're really trying to put yourself out there, the amount of hours that you have to put into preparation just to get the nerve to go out there and let somebody hear something you created, or to you know, put yourself out there on a stage and say, okay, hopefully I don't screw this up live and somebody watching digs it. I mean, there's so much that goes into all of it, and you know, that's why I never like to badmouth musicians or anything, any type of musician, because if they're out there doing it, then they're better than I am.
Right.
They're just as good or better than I am. You know what I mean? And I'm not that good. So,
well, and we're all. I know
how to fake it a little bit.
And well, I think we're all our own worst critics, and no matter what we do, though, you're always going to be like, "Oh man, I really blew it," and somebody will come and go, "Man, you're awesome, and you're like, "No, I'm not," you know.
Yeah, no. It's like, no, I'm quite terrible, but thanks.
Well, and it's like you said, everybody's got talent in whatever it is they do, but you're always at risk of feeling bad about what you're doing, even though other people are really glad that you're doing it.
It's kind of like, you know, like grass is always greener.
Yeah.
There's always somebody better. So you think you suck, but you're better than somebody else that thinks that they suck. And you're worse than somebody else who thinks that they suck. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like this never-ending cycle. And the only thing you can really do is just, you know, put the time in to try to improve in little bits and pieces here, you know, over the years and stuff. And eventually you might get to a place where you're like, okay, yeah, I'm not, you know, that guy, but I can hold my own. I can, you know, I can jam a riff.
We always say the show must go on. It's just one of those things, you know.
Absolutely.
Are you endorsed by any guitar company or products? I mean, what's your favorite guitar to play? Do you have any preference?
Well, I mean, yeah, I've been a fan of Jackson Kellys for 20 plus years. As a matter of fact, my main guitar is a wine red Jackson Kelly, and I've had that for 20 plus years. I've got a couple other backup guitars that are also Jackson Kellys, and before I had those, one of my very first guitars that I ever had was a custom Gibson Explorer.
Okay.
So I do prefer that particular body style, but I think I like the Jacksons over the Gibsons because the Gibsons tend to have a weird thing going on with the angle of the headstock, whereas and it can cause tuning and tonality issues, but
right.
the Jacksons seem to have that actually kind of worked out pretty good. So, and they're super comfortable to play, whether it's like standing or sitting, and they're very well balanced. So, yeah, I love them. Now, unfortunately, I'm not endorsed by Jackson because, unfortunately, I'm not that guy.
You're not that guy.
Right, but yeah, I am endorsed by a couple different companies. One of the top ones really is a company. It's a French company called Two Notes Audio Engineering.
Okay.
And I have multiple pieces of gear from them. I got endorsed by them, I'm going to say about five years ago or something, and it just their products have made my ability to record. It like it did an exponential leap forward because of their products. It's just anybody who's ever been in a situation where you live either in an apartment or you got shitty neighbors that'll complain and stuff, and also the thing being too with me, for instance, I'm kind of an insomniac, so a lot of times I'll go into my studio at like 2 a.m. and just start writing or whatever, and you try to do that with a real amplifier.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to have the cops on your ass, you know what I mean?
Yeah, your neighbors are going to be like, oh, that musician guy is at it again at 3 a.m.
Exactly. So they made a product that I love, and I never let it leave my studio. It's called a Torpedo Live, and what it is essentially it's a reactive load box, which lets you take your actual amp head, plug it into that instead of your cabinet.
Oh, wow.
And then you can turn the volume up, because anybody who plays tube heads knows that you're not getting the true sound of the amplifier unless you're pushing a certain amount of volume from the amp. Okay, because you have to really engage the tubes in the amp. And the only way to really do that is to play loud. But this thing actually allows you to do it in complete silence while still running your amp at the level it should be to get the actual true tone of the amp.
Oh, wow.
And that was just that was like a whole paradigm shift for me once I was able to get my hands on that thing, because great, now I can go down here at 2 a.m. and I can write and I can record, or I can just practice something or whatever, and I can do it in complete silence without losing or sacrificing any tone.
That's awesome.
So that was
awesome.
Yeah. So Two Notes is a great company. I've talked with the guy who actually started the company. His name's Guillaume, and he's just great, awesome customer service, fantastic products. So any musician, bass, guitar, whatever, I highly recommend looking into them if you haven't looked into them. They definitely have a piece of gear for you that will make your life easy.
Well, that's awesome, though. I mean, but again, that's one of the reasons why you connect and try to get that word out, because you find a product that works, and if somebody doesn't know about it, they need to know about it, then yeah, hell yeah.
Absolutely.
Get that out there.
So between that and not recently, a couple years ago, got endorsed by GHS Strings.
Okay.
So, great company. They make fantastic strings, and we used them all over the album. So
good deal.
There you go. Trying for. I got some feelers out for a couple other things that I legit use. I'm not an endorsement whore, so I'm not like just trying to get free shit. I'm trying to actually partner up with companies that make stuff that I already use anyway.
Sure.
So
I don't, and I don't think a lot of
musicians.
musicians are like that. I don't think everybody just wants free shit. But I mean, when you're trying to tour and you're trying to do stuff, things are expensive. But if you like what you're using, you should be able to at least have that relationship where you're getting something and they're getting something. You scratch each other's back a little bit, but it's a win-win situation.
Absolutely. I do know some people that are just like, give me free shit. But,
Sure.
I mean, and that's cool too. That's cool too, I mean, if you're going to use it, I mean, that's fine, But if you're just like kind of trying to get endorsements to say, hey, I'm endorsed by this, and this, and it's like, oh yeah, well, how many of those things you actually use? None of them.
Right.
All right, well, that was worthwhile, I guess. Like you feel better about yourself, I guess, But so yeah, so that's it as far as endorsements go for me. I mean, the band has several other endorsements. Like the drummer Johnny, he's endorsed by a great cymbal company called Saluda Cymbals. And Alan is endorsed also by a company called, I'm probably mispronouncing it, I think it's Babix, which they do like guitar bridges.
Huh.
So he uses their stuff on his. He's got like, I don't even know how many basses he's got. He's probably got about 100 of them, and he's got their stuff all over his basses. So yeah. So we've got some decent companies backing us up and helping us out and stuff. So yeah, I got a couple more I'm trying to get in line or whatever, but I need a few more followers.
How did y'all come up with the artwork on the album cover?
Basically that was we were kind of talking about what the meaning behind the title, the phrase is. And it just seemed like a lot of the roughed out songs were kind of, not that it's a concept album, it's not even really a themed album, but there seemed to be a handful of songs that kind of shared a common theme. And so we kind of presented that idea to the artist, a guy from Germany named Timo Wurtz, who he actually then took the, minimal amount of suggestions and rough ideas we had, and he just gave us about four different variations of cover art.
Okay.
Roughly sketched out, like done in like Illustrator and Photoshop, like really rough, but just so you can get an idea of, is this what you want or that? And the one was just like, we looked at it and we're like, yo, that's the one right there. So
that one jumped out.
Nailed it. And he really, and it's like, it's actual like paintings with him, so that's cool too. It's not all just overly digital stuff, which is great.
Right.
I love digital art when somebody's really good. Mixed medium arts are great too. Like one of my all-time favorite, artists for like covers and stuff is Travis Smith. But yeah, Timo seems to just be like, hey, I got nothing better to do but wake up today and paint about 10 different things.
Oh my God, right?
Wow.
Yeah, he's next level talented. So he pretty much just took those ideas and he came up with that, and we saw it and we said, thank you, sir. Don't cut mine hair,
Well, and as well as we do, like, our fans of our genre, well, and pretty much any metal genre really loves album art. I mean, we all love to have that visual.
How
that
many
goes
of us have
with
actually
it.
bought an album just because the cover was cool?
Oh, absolutely. Me,
Yeah.
guilty.
Yeah.
I mean, that started my whole love affair with metal in the first place. It was like, dude, what's this on the album? And I mean,
That's bad as hell.
Right. Metallica, that first Metallica album.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like,
Okay.
oh, that's gross. I have to have that. Blood and a hammer right on the front. I mean, kill them all. I was like, that's just nasty, and I bought it. And the next thing you know, that starts my love affair with metal.
Exactly.
I mean, that and all the Iron Maiden albums.
Iron Maiden, oh my God.
Oh yeah, Iron Maiden. Yeah, I think the first cassette tape I ever bought with my own money, it was my allowance money, was Killers when it came out.
Oh yeah.
And I bought it because of the cover art.
Oh yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, because Eddie's just the coolest creep ever. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's like, you got mascots, and then you got mascots, and then you got Eddie. So.
In the hierarchy of mascots, Eddie's the king of them all.
Oh, pretty much, yeah. You can't really top that.
So yeah, let's talk a little bit about Force of Will.
Okay.
It is obviously your newest full length, but I mean, it's been quite some time since you guys have released a full length album. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes. So it took quite a while, and I understand. You now that you're a so-called semi-permanent member of the band.
That seems to be what's going on, but I don't know yet.
So talk a little bit about the process. I mean, who writes most of the material, the music, the lyrics? Like, tell me a little bit about that. Who's mostly responsible?
Well, okay. The easiest answer is the music for this album in particular. The music and all the arrangements were handled by Bob and myself.
Okay.
And to make it easier, we didn't even bother really kind of saying like who did a little bit more here or a little bit more there. There's a few songs on the album that are probably 75% Bob. And
right.
I just come in with a few things to clean them up, some arrangement changes, and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And then there's a few songs that are like almost completely all me.
Sure.
And so rather than getting hung up on that, we agreed from the beginning that no matter who has the lion's share of music or ideas or riffs or whatever, that we would just say all music written and arranged, Ballinger Alvarez. And as far as the lyrics and the vocal melodies, that was legit. That's just a combination of all of us.
Okay.
So there's a couple of songs that I wrote a majority of the lyrics because when I write music, typically what I do, I know a lot of people like this, but what I do is a lot of times I have an idea in my head, like a theme. I'm writing about something.
Okay.
And I'll write the music that hopefully the music kind of reflects the mood of the idea I have in mind.
Right.
And then once I get that to a place where I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm really starting to feel this. It's almost like it's almost like a soundtrack to a movie that doesn't have any dialogue yet. So if I can get that soundtrack to kind of convey the idea like a silent movie of what this movie's supposed to be about, it makes it so much easier at the end to then go in and say, okay, let's add some dialogue, because I try to make the music do most of the talking.
Sure.
Okay, and that's not to downplay the importance of vocal melodies. And obviously 99% of people listening to something, they're listening for the singer, they're listening for that vocal hook or something they can hum along to or sing along to. I get it, but I'm not a vocalist, so I can only write from the standpoint of a guitarist.
Sure, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's true. I mean, that's subjective. Some people listen to it for the vocals, but some people listen to lyrics, some people listen to music, some people put the whole thing together. So I mean,
no, and you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right.
I mean, that's
I'm
subjective,
about, like,
but
the more casual listener.
Sure. But I mean, you as a musician, I mean, that's your experience as a writer.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So
because
and that's the reason why is because for good or for bad, when I'm writing stuff, I'm writing from the perspective of a musician first.
Sure.
Once I rough out an outline and make sure that there's no musician problems with the stuff I've written, then my brain jumps back over and I start listening from the perspective of a listener.
Right.
Because, I forget who it was. Somebody said, it was a buddy of mine, I think, might have been this, I don't know who it was, but anyway, somebody said something really cool and they just said, write the riffs you want to hear.
Sure.
And that really stuck with me because, and even though it was recently that I read that, it's still, I realize that's always what I've done. You know what I mean? Whenever I've written something, it's always been because I'm like, I'm writing this because this sounds like something I would want to hear. If I wasn't writing it, I would still want to hear it. So hopefully that comes across to whoever may listen to it afterwards and they go, wow, this is definitely something I want to hear, even though I didn't write it.
Right. Ironically, I've interviewed a couple of musicians, and one of them told me the same thing. He's been in a lot of projects, done a lot of bands, and he said, this is the album that, he just released an album. He said, this is the album I've wanted to release since I was 15 years old. I didn't do it to make money. I didn't do it because of this. I did this is what I wanted to do because this was for me. And people just happen to like it.
Yeah, well, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with being a little selfish.
Right.
A lot of people pay a lot of fan service to their fans, and that's important.
Right.
Your album is only as good as the people that want to listen to it.
Right.
Exactly.
But it's also incredibly important from a standpoint of ego, I guess. And
sure.
Ego doesn't have to be bad. Ego is your sense of self-worth also.
Absolutely.
When you put so much of yourself into a creation, you want to be able to hear it afterwards. Like after it's all said and done, you just want to be able to hit play and go, fuck yeah, dude.
Yeah.
And I can honestly say this album, I mean, I have my own band, my own studio project that I write 100% of the music for. I've done a couple albums for it. But this album is the first album where I can honestly say I have zero qualms or regrets or anything about it. I am completely 1 billion% proud of this. Every note of it, every single person's performance on it. And that was the goal going into it. When we first started doing the pre-production, because I also produced the album. And I said to the guys, the goal for this album, for all of us, is to have an album that we'll never, ever have to make an excuse for before we hit play for somebody.
Exactly.
Because all too often, you have that album you made 10 years ago or something, and it may even have better songs on it.
Sure.
But you didn't have the budget, so the production sucks. Or you had to deal with a shithole drummer, or you had to deal with this, that, or the other thing, and it didn't come out the way you wanted it to. Something got sacrificed. And even though you're proud of the music you created and the songs, like I said, may even subjectively be better, you still feel the need when somebody goes, well, let me hear your band. And you go, okay, yeah. Well, first of all, keep in mind that there's always a caveat. And this album, I said from the very beginning to those guys, I'm like, we're going to do this, and we're going to make sure that at the end of it, we never have to preface hitting play by saying, but. And I think we accomplished that. I think every single guy in the band is just completely, to use a fucking tired old cliche, over the moon about this album. We're thrilled.
But that's important, though. You have to admit that's important. When you get when you get to a certain point in your career where you shouldn't have to just what's the word? Just be complacent about it and just sit back and go,
right.
Well, it's good enough.
Right. Yeah, this time we made an effort to say good enough wouldn't be good enough. It has to be great.
Right.
Exactly.
And we all collectively pushed each other to make sure that, this bass line that you have, it's better than any of the bass lines on your previous album, but you know what? You can do it a little bit better for this one. Or this guitar solo. I'm not a lead guitar player. I hate playing solos.
Right.
I've always been more content to just be the guy in the background kind of holding up things. But this was the first album where I legit had to do a majority of the guitar leads.
Wow.
And that was intimidating.
Sure. But it pushed you. It pushes you a little bit.
Learning the guitar all over again while also writing.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, and knowing full well that I have to perform it live as well. And I'm a competent enough guitarist with certain things, but I've always been hesitant with the idea of playing solos, which is, you've heard the album and stuff. I'm not a shredder. I'm not any type of guitar hero. So I just... What's that?
Sorry?
Yeah, there you are.
Oh, yeah. I thought maybe we lost you for a second. Anyway, no, I was agreeing and laughing with you.
Yeah, and it's the kind of thing where you go, okay, so I've got a handful of tools. I'm gonna use those, and in the process, I'm also gonna push myself, and I'm going to learn one new tool, something different. I'm going to learn a new trick, And I forced myself to do that with a shit ton of practicing and just like kind of looking into things, but making sure that I wasn't doing something that just seemed out of place from anything else I would do. And I think I kind of managed that, and I was able to do, because again, like I said, I had to do the majority of the leads. The idea being that when you do a solo, you don't want to just do the same repetitive type licks, the same kind of moves all the time, because once you get like 3-4 songs in there, everybody's going to be like, oh, okay. That's all
He's doing it again.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. Let me guess, 4 counts in the bend, something like that. So I try to always, every solo I do, I try to make it something that's very personal to the song. And if the song has, let's say, it's got some exotic overtones of a certain kind or whatever, then I would actually like research some of those kind of, traditional music for some, like, a good example is Mountain of Death. That song is about, this Yatlov Pass massacre thing that happened in northern Russia. And so all the melodies and the harmony parts and the guitar solo, it all had to have kind of like that Eastern European, Russian sort of vibe to it. Maybe not 100%. I'm sure there's a music theorist out there that's going to smack me down for saying that. But I think to the average listener, you get the flavor.
Sure.
You get a flavor of something kind of Russian feeling out of it. And that's the kind of the approach that I myself took, and I know Bob also took with the solos that he did and some of the melodies that we worked out. So that's basically how stuff like that comes about. It's really just personal to the song itself.
So what about the? Can you give us a little insight about the Hill I Die On? What is the concept of that? What is the storyline behind it?
Toby loves the epic long songs, so he's all about he loves them long ass 7-8 minute epic tracks.
I love the history
behind the songs. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, so that actually that song started as a goof.
Wow.
No way.
We were working on I forget which song it was. We were working on like the arrangement for one of these songs, and I said to Bob, I was kind of like getting a rough idea of like some track listings and arrangements and stuff together, and I said to Bob, I was like, dude, we need another fast song. I said, we got some cool stuff going on. I said, but I think we need like one more burner. So he, and he's like, oh well, I got a couple of riffs. Give me a day. And so he kind of fleshed out a few riff ideas he had, and that was the basis for the song "Spitting Fire." And I happened to have a couple of fast parts and like that whole classic old sounding melody thing, which is like my love letter to Vivaldi, and at the end section, and it just fit together seamlessly. So while he was doing that, I was like, oh, okay, so this son of a bitch is just going to go and fire off another song on me or whatever. Well, I'm not going to be outdone. So I had a couple of riff ideas, and I just started messing around one day, and he sent me he's like, hey, check it out. What do you think? I've got a verse and a pre-chorus for this song. I'm like, I've got an 8-minute song. For the most part. I mean, so it was almost kind of a goof. Some of the parts, that song is pretty much musically mostly all me, because it's reworked from a bunch of my studio band, Shadow Dance. It was reworked from a bunch of leftover ideas I had.
Oh, wow.
For a third album. So I put it together, and the idea behind the song is kind of like, like I said, I come up with an idea and I start writing around that. And I didn't even realize that the idea I came up with in my head is actually a legit thing. It's actually literature. So I had this kind of idea of like a guy who basically he fights this battle, and then he does he does like the man time thing, you know, he saves a bunch of people and he sacrifices himself so that they'll live and stuff, and then he dies. But because he was such a badass in the battle, you know, the gods decide to send him back to Earth to fight in more battles.
Oh wow.
Okay.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, so I thought it was a kind of a neat idea, and then I found out that, like, you know, a dude already wrote a whole series
right.
called The Eternal Champion.
Based on that exact thing.
Moorcock wrote a whole series of novels or something. I'm like, well, shit, I hope I don't get sued. But so I had to retool some of the lyrics to kind of make it a little bit less about the, you know, the reincarnation aspect of it, and
right.
just sort of focus more on the idea of, you know, this guy basically threw down, and, you know, it's influenced by other stuff, like historical stuff, you know,
sure.
like the Viking that fought off, like, the whole British army or something.
Right, right.
On the bridge, things like that, you know, just like a lone badass taking on, you know, or like that epic scene in Game of Thrones when, you know, Jon Snow is, like, got all those horses charging at him, he's just like, well, fuck it, and just takes the sword out, you know, like that kind of thing. So that's what the whole basis of that song is. It's the idea behind it is about, you know, just The Hill I Die On is about deciding to make a stand. And it may not be the popular decision, it may not endear you to people, but if you believe in it, then you have to make a stand on it, and even if it means you die. So it's, you know, it's about honor, it's about courage, it's about all those kind of ideas.
That's sweet. I like that.
You know, we try to do positive stuff, you know, like kind of, I don't know, maybe it's a Philadelphia thing, but there's always kind of like a little bit of that Rocky thing going on in the stuff we write, you know, so it's like, you know, pick yourself up, you know, and like, don't give up kind of thing, so.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, live to fight another day kind of.
That's what me and Lori call
exactly.
happy metal.
Yeah, the happy metal, the happy message that goes with it.
Well, I wouldn't say happy, but, you know, because he does die.
Well, yeah, he does die, but he does come back.
He does die, but it's something, there's still something positive to it, you know.
Absolutely.
It's you know, I don't know, it's like I said, you know, honor, conviction, these are good qualities, and I think writing, you know, even fictional characters that kind of exemplify those things is a positive thing unto itself, rather than just, I don't know, mundane type sex, drugs, rock and roll kind of stuff.
Sure.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a place for that too, but I mean, we all.
Sure.
That's why there's so many varieties of music anyway.
Music, yeah.
You pick it.
Absolutely, I love Steel Panther.
Oh, sure.
That was great.
I just gotta step back and go. I can't even respond to that other than you're absolutely right. I don't like Steel Panther, but I think that's just because I don't have a penis, you know.
But they're important. They serve a purpose.
They serve
Exactly.
a purpose, and I get their place in it. I'm like, I just roll my eyes and go, okay. You guys need your place to go and have your fun, but I just don't get it. What would you say is your two-part question on this one? Your favorite song on the album, just to listen to, and your favorite song to play.
Okay. So my favorite song to listen to, honestly, I'll probably have to go with Hill.
Really?
Just because, yeah, to listen to, because I think that song, I think that really, for me personally, that showcases everything that I grew up listening to and everything I ever wanted to put into a song.
Okay.
And the fact that it came out with which it wouldn't have happened without the other guys.
Right.
So the fact that it came out the way it did, with Jim absolutely crushing the vocals, with Johnny just massacring the drums throughout the whole thing, with, you know, Alan killing it on the bass, with, you know, I wrote some pretty tricky extra bass lines too, like, because he had his bass lines worked out, and I was like, yeah, but I kind of had an idea for something. and to his credit, he was always completely receptive to these things, because my problem is when I write, I tend to write everything.
Right.
I write the drum parts, I write the bass line, you know what I mean? So, but I never tried to be too heavy-handed with that stuff. But this song in particular, I took it very personal, and everybody just went with it. If I was like, listen, like the best was like Jim when I was going over the idea I had for the middle part, the bridge part with all the big vocal harmonies that overlap over each other, and he just kind of looked at me like, why are you doing this to me? You know? And I'm like, I just said to him, I said, please just trust me. It'll be so neat sounding when it's done. And he said, all right, just tell me what to sing and how to sing. And we did it. And at the end of it, we listened back to it, and he put his arm in front of me, and all the hairs on his arm were standing up. And he's like, bro, you can't fake that response.
Right. Oh, yeah,
so,
absolutely.
That's the song I'm probably the most proud of as far as from a listening standpoint. Playing, right now, we only do, because typically we've only got between 35 to 45 minutes set times. So there's several other albums. We always have to make sure we try to hit some of that. Right now, we're doing 3 of the songs from the new album live. We're doing Mountain, Draugr, and Path of Glory. I actually just sent the rhythm guitar files to Bob today. We're going to start working on possibly getting the song 13 worked into the set.
Okay.
And then we'll take it from there. But for right now, out of those 3, I would say probably, I'm going to say Draugr is probably my favorite one to play live right now.
Okay.
Because it's kind of, that's a great song. That one's a majority of Bob's handiwork. It's a great song because it's got just a really, like, live it goes over great. It's got a cool headbanging groove to it.
Right.
And it's got like a little taste of everything you would want to hear or you could expect to hear from another Power Theory song. There's the twin guitar attack thing going on, the harmonized lead thing going on. There's the really super fast double bass, but then there's also the really cool, almost rock-oriented beats. And Jim just gets to kill it all over the place vocally. And it's it's a pretty cool, like the old classic metal bands doing like their monster song,
Sure,
like
sure.
Judas Priest, Nightcrawler kind of stuff. So it goes over well live all the time, every time we play it, and it's fun. And if I'm being 100% honest, it's also dick easy for me to play. So I can totally think about food or cartoons while I'm playing it.
I love that. Dick easy to play.
It's dick easy.
It's funny to hear other musicians, because I'm not a musician. I'm an Uber fan. I don't have any musical talent. I don't even sing in the shower because the neighbors don't need to hear that shit. But Toby would disagree with you. I'll try to sing, I just don't. But it's funny to hear other musicians talk about what's easy to them and what's difficult. And I'm over here going, dang, I can't even do, like Mary Had a Little Lamb on a piano to me is hard. And you guys, but some musicians make it look so easy.
Particular level,
Right.
So what's easy for me is difficult for someone else. What's easy for somebody else is impossible for me, so.
But for you to say dick easy, I'm over here going, dude, seriously? I mean, come on, I can't play guitar. I can't play an instrument. So it's just funny to hear. It's funny to hear anybody say something like that, and I'm just going, dude, come on. I can't play an instrument at all. I can't even sing, so.
That's a beginner song. You can play that.
What, Mary Had a Little Lamb?
No, Draugr.
Oh, that's a beginner song. Well,
Yeah. Please learn how to play, because then I can stop being in this band.
You're not even in the band yet. They haven't even asked you yet, Carlos.
Sure.
Come on. You're just the fill-in guy, remember?
Yeah,
it's
3
only,
years and counting.
It's 2 gigs. Did you? No, Pure Steel does the Pure Steel Festival up there. Were you guys on that?
We played it last year, which was great. A lot of awesome bands, and everybody was really cool and stuff. And we had a good reception. We were supposed to play it this year. Unfortunately, we had an illness in the band at the last minute. It turned into a pretty horrendous flu and everything else, and so we had to cancel at the last minute, unfortunately. But
Gotcha.
the main organizer, Lon, the singer for Wretch,
Right.
Yeah.
he totally understood, and he said, "Hey, you guys have an open invite to next year, regardless. So don't sweat it." So hopefully, if everything goes well, then we'll be able to head out there to Ohio and play that again next year.
Okay, I was just curious if you guys, we haven't made it out to it yet. We really wanted to get out
Oh
there.
my
We just
God,
haven't gotten a
yes.
chance to.
Yeah, no, we there was that one, and if everything goes well, at the end of 2020, we'll have a couple things going on, several festivals. That being one of them. We're confirmed to play Madison, Wisconsin.
Are you doing Mad with Power?
Yes.
Oh, for fuck's sake! Well, then
Oh.
we'll see you there probably because
Yes, you
Toby and
will.
I.
Oh, okay, cool.
We just saw Ty at Rapid Fire Fest on Friday night. We just went down for that.
Oh, nice.
And
That's
so
awesome.
we'll definitely see you up there.
Hell yes.
I'm from Minneapolis
you
originally,
go.
so Madison is like my backyard. So I'm excited
Oh,
to go
wow.
home. And
Well, I guess I
yeah.
better practice then.
Yeah, you better practice. Yeah, I don't want you to
Better
suck
practice.
if I'm coming all the way from North Carolina to see you guys. I mean, come on.
Yeah, I better practice. Then.
Oh, that's yeah. Yeah, don't make it too dick easy for you.
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
throwing
trying
it.
to make it look like it's a little harder than it is.
Oh my god. Yeah, that Mad with Power Fest is a freaking fantastic. This will be the 5th year I think next
Yeah.
year, 4th or 5th year
Yeah.
that he's been
the
doing
pictures
it.
I saw for it, like from a few months ago or whatever, I was just like, wow, yeah, we gotta get on that. And,
Oh.
you know,
God, Ty is a great guy. Lords of the
Ty
Trident are.
contacted us and said, yo. So yeah, we'll be on that one.
Oh,
And,
that's great. You guys will love it. It's so
that's-
much
that's
fun.
August, I believe, and then if everything works out according to plan, we're already invited. I think we'll probably go over to Germany the month after Mad with Power and play a festival, the Hard Summer Festival in Falkenfels, which is like southern Germany. And then right now we're just trying to get like a couple more gigs over there, like, one or two before and after that festival to make it more worthwhile for us to fly over there and stuff. And then after that, hopefully the Pure Steel Fest.
Yeah. Did you just take if we're understanding what we've seen on your page, did you just take a trip to Norway?
No, actually, no. We went to Iceland.
Oh, you went to Iceland.
Ah.
Yeah.
We saw that you went on vacation somewhere, and it looked really freaking cool.
Yeah. Because Bob, we all hang out together. Like, Bob's wife is from Germany, and my wife is also from Germany. So,
Okay.
we for years now, we all kind of do stuff together. And
Right.
Iceland was kind of like always on our bucket list, and it just happened to be on their list as well. So we said, "Fuck it, let's all go to Iceland."
Oh wow,
That's
that must have been
cool.
awesome fun.
Yeah, it was fantastic. Yeah, it really is kind of like one of those things. Like not to get too hippy dippy or anything like that, but it
No.
really does kind of it changes your perspective a little bit when you're in a place like that.
Oh, I can imagine.
And for the
Oh,
better.
yeah.
I can imagine. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it was definitely it kind of it stirred up a couple butterflies up in the old chest area.
Oh. Nothing wrong with that, man.
It was pretty amazing.
Nothing wrong with that.
Mhm. I'll take it.
Yeah, absolutely. I knew it wasn't like you guys did that as a band to tour or anything. We just noticed it. And it was like, oh, ask him about that trip. I thought it was Norway for some reason, but it was Iceland.
No,
so.
but it's funny because we were talking about it afterwards, and even though every one of us is absolutely, completely prepared to go back to Iceland anytime, actually, Norway is on the list next, I think.
Right.
Because my wife and I have been talking about trying to get over to the west coast of Norway for a few years now. It's a little difficult for us because, like I said, she's from Germany, and my mother-in-law still lives over in outside of Berlin. So we have to really kind of plan things out. We're on this several year rotation. It's like her mom will come here for a couple weeks one year, then the next year we'll go there for a couple weeks,
Right.
and then the year after that's an off year, and we go where we want, sort of thing. So
Right, well,
this
and
year
that
had to
kind of
be
travel is
like-
expensive. I mean,
Yeah, it's it doesn't get cheaper.
no, it certainly doesn't.
And the airlines can go my ass.
Excuse me,
It
sorry
can
about
be
that.
Crazy, but you got to do what you got to do, right? So,
Right.
That's right.
Absolutely. Well, and then of course you've got band stuff going on. So when it comes to that and touring and trying to put together that kind of stuff, there's money. Obviously, your label doesn't pay for everything. You've got to come up with money to tour and go places and.
The label pays for things.
Right. Right. But you know what I mean.
Yeah, no. Listen, the new model, it's a little bit different than it used to be.
Sure.
The new model nowadays is most of the time the labels aren't paying for anything.
No.
And I mean, if you're a bigger band, sure, because they know they're going to get a return on their investment. But for the most part, the more standardized model these days seems to be smaller labels that just they ensure distribution, they ensure promotion. And, and if you're lucky, you get some advances towards recording expenditures and stuff like that.
Right. But everything else pretty much comes out of your pocket.
Things like that.
Right.
Yeah, and if you start really kind of, showing your worth and really generating a buzz and crowds and all that kind of stuff, then yeah, they'll put money into you, like some tour support and stuff like that. But right now, I mean, Pure Steel they're a German label. It's not like they're over here or something where we can work really closely and directly with them and stuff. So we try to all, they're trying to do the best they can for us, and we're trying to pick up whatever slack there may be that makes it easier for them to do the best they can for us.
Absolutely.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, you're like, if that makes sense.
In a roundabout way, in an over-convoluted way, it makes sense.
I get it. I totally do, though.
Yeah.
So right now, like, what would you say the largest crowd you've played to so far is? Largest crowd.
Ooh, I got to think about that.
Put you on the spot.
I would say, actually, it was a great crowd. I don't know if it was technically the largest, but it was one of the best. We played, we opened up for a friend of ours, great friend of the band, Mike LaPond. He's a bass player for Symphony X.
Very familiar. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so he's got his own band, Mike LaPond Silent Assassins.
Yes.
Fantastic band, and the singer, Alan Tecchio, from Watchtower, and, what was the other band?
God, that escapes me.
Yeah, but you get it. Anyway, so killer band, and they played last December. It was like December 21st. They had a gig up in North Jersey, and they invited us to open up the gig, and the crowd was effing nuts. It was killer.
Best time.
Killer vibes, like fists in the air. People fucking, like, if you said, come on, clap with me, they would clap with you. And usually you don't see that shit around here,
Right.
It's more like a European kind of vibe you get and stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's Mike's
but
home.
There were a lot of people there, so it was a really good-sized crowd and very enthusiastic. And we were really, really lucky and thankful that Mike asked us to be a part of that gig, because that was the first ever live presentation of Mike LaPond's Silent Assassin. So we were pretty lucky to be a part of that.
That's awesome. Well, you'll get that at Mad with Power too. You're gonna love that whole atmosphere, that crowd, those people, all of the bands that you're gonna be playing with. You're gonna have a whole weekend of that kind of atmosphere. You're gonna love it. You're never gonna want to play anywhere else.
One of my boys, we're playing that band Dire Peril is playing.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And I produced that album. I co-produced it with Jason. He's also the guitarist.
Yeah.
Yeah, from Helium Prime.
He's
and
awesome.
I actually played all the lead guitars on that album too.
Oh.
Not the solos.
Just the
The
lead.
solos are by that monster Taylor. That freaking anomaly of a monstrosity of a guitar player, Taylor. But I did all the melody leads, and I did a couple small solos and stuff on that album. So it's pretty cool. And also the singer for that band, John Yellen, he's also the singer for another band called Judicator.
Yeah.
And I also produced and mixed the last couple albums from Judicator too. So it's kind of like we all get together and hang out. So
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
We play those bands on our show too. We're very big fans. So Toby,
cool.
Toby actually mentioned that. He goes, "Did you know that Carlos, produced those?" And I said, "No, I didn't." And he's like, "Well, he did." And I'm like, "Okay, well, I need to do a little more research."
Yeah, I did that. I did what else? I actually co-produced and mixed the first Helium Prime album, and then the second one, Jason contacted me and asked me if I'd be able to do it, but I actually had a little too much going on with trying to finish up one album and then starting pre-production for this current Power Theory album. So I was like, I won't be able to do it, but I still was able to help them out with a bunch of stuff, and I co-produced that album, that second Helium Prime album that came out last year. So, they've got a pretty good upward trajectory going on, and I'm really looking forward to hearing what they do with the third album.
Right.
Hopefully they'll ask me to be a part of it in some way.
Oh, sure, they might.
Yeah.
I don't know why they wouldn't.
Well, I mean, you never know. A lot of times it comes down to timing.
Sure.
And Jason and I, we bust each other's balls constantly. So
that doesn't surprise me.
we have a good rapport, and so hopefully he'll be like, hey, help me out here. So we'll see.
So the album's coming,
yeah.
with the album being out December 6th, and then
Yes.
obviously winter and whatnot, and then we know about August, September, you've got all of that. So what's going to happen in between? Are you looking to book gigs, or do you have tours planned? What, or just promoting the album? What's going to happen between January and August?
Yeah, we have several really cool shows lined up. We're actually going to be playing in the beginning of the year. We've got 2 gigs back-to-back in January, at the end of January, opening up for Ross the Boss.
Oh, you're so lucky. I love Ross.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Fantastic band, and stylistically, we just completely mesh.
Absolutely.
So that should be, we're really looking forward to that. So we're going to do 2 gigs with them. One is in Queens, and then the next night we're playing a big place, popular place called the Chance Theater up in Poughkeepsie, New York. And then at the end of February, we're doing a third, direct support opening up for Ross the Boss at a place in Brooklyn called the Kingsland. Okay. And we have a show. I believe it's the end of April. I forget where it's at, but it's opening up for some friends of ours. They're having a reunion show, a band called Sinister Realm. So we're going to be opening up for them, and that's supposedly going to be a pretty big deal. So we're looking forward to doing that. And
where is that? Is that in Pennsylvania, or is that in Jersey?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe so. I think I'm trying to remember it. Okay, it's a place called the Gin Mill. I don't know exactly where that's at, but I think it's in middle Pennsylvania. But it's supposedly a pretty fantastic venue.
Gotcha.
And then on the way to Mad with Power, I think a couple nights before, we have a gig booked in Akron, Ohio, I think.
Okay.
And as far as I know off the top of my head, right, it's all kind of, we're building it up. We're trying.
But you've got some stuff spread out, so you're not just, kind of sitting idle until August, Until
the end of the year, exactly.
Right.
Exactly. No, we're trying to make sure we at least have, even if we can't do some big 2-week kind of jaunt or whatever, we're trying to keep the shows pretty frequent throughout the year for next year to help promote the album.
Right, and then
it's a little difficult because we all work full-time jobs. So
okay, and then will your set kind of evolve to play a lot more of the new material, or are you still going to do a nice mix of all the new, or you don't know really yet? You're just going to kind of see how that goes, or if really the idea is to have at least half of the set be new material. Right.
Again, we're always kind of dealing with that. You've got between 35 to 45 minutes. So it's not easy to try to find a good balance, because at this point there's a lot of people that when they come to see us, they do want to hear several songs from the last album, Driven by Fear, because
that made them your fans, really.
Yeah, I mean, and also because just like as a thing, we always end our live set with the song "The Truth Shall Set You Free" from Driven by Fear.
Right.
So there's always going to be that song, and we always do one song from the album. Even before that, from Axe to Grind, we do the song "Colossus" live. So anything in between that is negotiable. But there's a couple of songs from Driven by Fear that have almost become, I don't want to sound full of myself or anything, but quote-unquote classics for Power Theory live sets.
Right.
So we try to make sure that we can at least hit a couple of those. I think right now the goal is to maybe have 4 new songs. I mean, if you look at almost any, even larger bands, when they put out a new album, if they're doing even an hour-long set, if they're doing 4 or 5 new songs, it's pretty remarkable.
Right.
Because by the time you get to a point where you're being offered hour-long sets, that means you've got multiple albums behind you that people are coming to hear songs from. So
Sure.
You have to balance that out. So like I said, right now we've been doing 3 songs for probably about 8 months or something. We're going to start working in this 4th song, and that's the thing, is basically we'll try them out. Like this 4th song, we'll try it out and we'll see what happens. If it doesn't get a good response live, then we'll pick a different song from the album and try that out. But if it goes over like gangbusters, then we may just get one more under the belt in case we get offered a 50-minute set and we can throw one out as like a little encore thing. But that's probably going to be it for the time being.
Well, if you're doing back-to-back with Ross the Boss, you could probably rotate your set list and throw a different song in each night too, maybe, perhaps.
That's for the 2 shows that are actually back-to-back, because they're in like noticeably different locations. It's not like we're playing Queens one night and Brooklyn the next.
Oh.
So there won't be any crossover or spillover from one gig to the next.
You'd be surprised, though. You'd be surprised. Some people will buy tickets and go to both shows just because.
No, you're absolutely right.
They're
but
that good.
I think for simplicity's sake, I think just to keep things tight, we're probably going to
just stick with
for
the
those
same
first
set.
2 shows. We're going to do the same set, and then maybe we might switch it up a little bit for the one in February. But we'll see.
Yeah.
That's I'm trying to kind of keep myself removed from that part of.
Oh, it's the Carlos Alvarez Dick Easy theory.
Yeah, make it Dick Easy, and I'll be there.
I'm sorry. Now I'm busting your balls. I'm sorry.
No, please, have at it.
Oh, so where's the best place to get Power Theory merch? I mean, we know obviously Pure Steel Records is your label, so we can go there and buy the new album. But do you have any other place where we buy shirts? We can buy patches. Toby's a patch whore. He loves merch. We're merch whores too. But where can we get all your stuff?
Our merch page on our Bandcamp site is the best place. We got all our T-shirts. We got patches. We got beer koozies. We're selling tickets to the shows on there. We've got thongs.
Oh!
Yeah.
So they got girl stuff
everything.
too.
We got everything. We got beanies. We got everything on there. If you just go to our Bandcamp page, it's just powertheory.bandcamp.com, and it takes you right to a page where you can either pick music or merchandise, and there you go.
Perfect.
Oh, perfect.
We love to give you guys an opportunity, anybody, to let everybody know where to go and buy stuff, because that's what we want them to do. We want them to buy your stuff.
That's what we want.
Support. It's all about support. But is there...
That's powertheory.bandcamp.com.
You guys get that now?
Buy our stuff.
Support these guys.
Please.
Is there anything else that you would really want to say to anybody listening? Anything in closing that you want your fans, the people, our listeners, to know about you, about your band, about anything?
That's always tough, because then I kind of feel like I'm really just sort of, I feel like I'm talking out my ass then. No, all I can really say is, I mean, first and foremost, thank you to both of you for taking time on your Sunday to talk with me and ask me questions and show interest and help us out. I mean, it's greatly appreciated. It really is.
You're welcome.
Very well.
As far as anything else, I mean, the fans so far, that we've been getting really good responses to the couple of videos that we've put up so far, and we just want to say thank you to everybody that's been commenting on the videos, leaving positive words and stuff, and it really means a lot, because when you put so much of yourself into something, you go down a pretty deep rabbit hole when you work on these albums. And
Absolutely.
You come out 2 years later, and you don't expect that you're not gonna be a millionaire. And I'm far past the time period where girls are gonna want to touch me anymore. But you kind of hope you get at least a little recognition for your work. And hopefully there's somebody out there that listens to it and goes, holy shit, I really dig that song. And that's really what we're looking for at this point. So anybody who's been doing that, just thank you so far. And for anybody who hasn't had a chance to check us out, take a shot. See what happens. You might dig it. If you like power metal, if you like traditional metal, and you like it with some edge to it, give us a shot. And that's about really all I got.
Awesome. Well, we can't thank you enough for the time and for all of the talk and all of the giving us the background that you did too for Power Theory. We can't wait. And
I have a propensity to ramble, but I try to keep it to a minimal. So thank you very much. Seriously, like I said, for taking your time out for this and for talking with me and giving me this opportunity. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
you're welcome.